and welcome to the Haematology Health Psychology online series. Today we are talking about sleep. So I will let the team introduce themselves today.
Hello, my name is Sickle Cell and I'm the assistant psychologist in the health psychology team.
Hi, I'm Emma Sanchez-Walker. I'm one of the clinical psychologists in the team.
And my name is Roselle Miller. I'm also one of the clinical psychologists within the haematology department at Guy's and St Thomas's Hospital. Today our sleep webinar should be around half an hour. If you've got any questions or any thoughts or comments about the talk that we do today, please use the slide at the end to get our contact details. There will also be a survey because we really would value your feedback, considering this is quite a new venture for us in terms of reaching out to you online rather than in person. So we'd really look forward to hearing your feedback after we've completed our talk today.
So our first slide is about why sleep is important, and research has shown that sleep has restorative power. So sleep really impacts the way we concentrate and our memory. It's been shown to impact the functioning of our immune system and our overall physical health. Our sleep, or good sleep in particular, is also linked to mental health and the way we interact with others.
Wow, so sleep is really powerful in terms of the impact and effects it can have, and definitely the restorative elements of it are really clear.
And definitely on the flip side of that, how one night's bad sleep can really impact on these, and then lots and lots of bad sleep can feel like it's really having a big impact. I think particularly memory, I think, is something that we don't always think about, that our brains work really hard when we're asleep to kind of lay down those new memories and things we've learned that day. And if we're not getting that sleep, it can feel, really difficult.
And the same with our immune system. You could say the same thing, that if you're not sleeping too well, it can potentially lower your immune system, which can then have an impact, as it says, on your physical and emotional health.
So we thought we'd have a think about some of the sleep difficulties that people have told us about. So we work with all different sleep difficulties in haematology. So some people find that after they have had a good night's sleep, they feel like they've slept a lot of hours, but they still feel really tired when they wake up, so they don't feel refreshed. Some people have a real tough time getting to sleep, and some people find they wake up really early, kind of the flip end of that. And some people just have real difficulty staying asleep throughout the night. They've had lots of time when they wake up and feel really disturbed throughout the night. And then linked to this is also a strong urge to nap throughout the day. So if you don't feel like you're getting enough sleep at night, then you might feel like you need to sleep in the daytime.
It's interesting to hear of all the different types of sleep difficulties, and I wonder how often people would think, oh, a nap throughout the day is something that's necessarily a not so good thing, or kind of staying asleep and then waking up early, whether that's necessarily a bad thing either.
And I guess that's the good question, isn't it? Like, when is a sleep difficulty a difficulty? Because actually, if you're really happy getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, great. Like, doesn't make any, it's about when it starts having an impact on your life, do you think?
I guess it's also important to know that sleep difficulties vary for each person. And so some of those difficulties might not be things that we've listed here today.
And sometimes they've been going on for a really long time, so they just become the new normal. And sometimes there's things we can do about it to help. So I think it's helpful to kind of acknowledge how long it's been going on for sometimes.
I wonder if it would be helpful to share some of the difficulties that we've heard of in the work that we do, so some of the people that we work with, or some of our nursing population or doctors, because sleep problems can affect everyone at any different point. Are there any particular examples of kind of sleep problems that people want to share?
I've worked with quite a few people who experience a lot of pain, And if they're either they end up having medications which can affect it, or they are waking up in pain, and they've been able to readdress that with the medical team, and that's been really helpful for them. And they didn't realise that was a thing they could do or discuss with people. So that was part of it. And some of it is just comes down to not having too much caffeine late at night, and making some really small changes to try and adjust their lifestyle to help.
And we're going to come on to a few of those different things in terms of what things impact upon sleep, and ways that we might be able to give you some tips to be able to support better sleep. One of the things I often think about with the people in haematology is the difference between fatigue and tiredness, and fatigue and sleep difficulties. So that might be a question that you ask yourselves in terms of, when am I feeling fatigued and as a result of my health condition, or when am I feeling really tired and in need of sleep? So perhaps that's something we'll talk about, or if you want specifically to receive the details of a fatigue workshop in the future, then please let us know in the feedback.
So we've just got some ideas here about things that can impact our sleep. They'll be different for everyone. I think that's really important to stress. And some of the things are going to be really difficult to change. And I think sometimes it's acknowledging that some of these things can be changed and some of them can't. And so thinking about what we can do and just acknowledging these things. So sometimes people have told us about mood and emotional reasons. So if we're worrying a lot, it can make our brains really active just before we go to sleep, and that can make it really hard to drop off. Or we can find ourselves waking up a lot in the night, a bit like an alarm clock, our brain telling us that we need to do certain things.
And that's probably common if people are quite busy throughout the day, or trying to keep themselves distracted throughout the day, that sometimes when it's time to get into bed, it's the time when things are maybe a little bit more quiet. So people might feel that worries come to mind more often at that point, just as if when you're getting into bed or when you wake up in the middle of the night.
Definitely. I think, and this is probably a good point to flag, that with the pandemic and the coronavirus situation, quite a lot of people we've been speaking to have had a huge impact on their sleep. And that's partly due to their mood and their emotions and a changing routine, perhaps. So just to acknowledge that is something that we've found with quite a lot of people. I don't know if either of you two have noticed that of people you've been working with.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think lots of the patients I've been talking to, the changes in their routine has definitely impacted their sleep. They find that they might be oversleeping, or they might find that they're going to bed much later.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that there's definitely some changes in routine that cause our sleep routines to change, and that feels very normal. And as Emma said, sleep is only a problem if it feels like it has an impact on your life. So it's not to say that at the moment, if you're sleeping later in the day because of coronavirus, or if you've not necessarily been able to leave the house due to shielding or keeping yourself safe because of coronavirus, that might have a really normal impact on your sleep. And it might be that it will, when things go a little bit more to a new normal, as they keep saying, that your sleep might also return to a similar routine as it did before. And
some people have found it's been really beneficial to have that extra time to rest. So I feel like it's not all doom and gloom. So some of the behaviours we've thinking about is our diet. So things that cause heartburn, or if you're dehydrated, or you're using caffeine or alcohol late in the day, they can have a huge impact on our sleep. And just worth kind of checking in on what affects you, and what's having an impact on your life and your sleep. And there's also been a lot of research about electronic devices. So there's ways you can filter the blue light and have different things that can be helpful to reduce the impact of using electronic devices late at night, if it's difficult to stop doing that before bed. And then the surroundings. So we know that our bodies sleep better if it's a little bit cooler in your room, because the natural day and night cycle means that temperature is really important to get right, and often temperature drops a bit at night time. and also if it's really noisy. So sometimes people find using earplugs can make a huge difference to their sleep.
And as you said, some of these things are not necessarily within our control. So sometimes there might be noisy neighbours, or you might need to be able to respond to children in the nighttime. So you're a little bit more aware of a slightly lighter sleep that you might be in as well. So that's something just to keep in mind in terms of things that you can change and things that you can't, and things that you can maybe have a little bit of an influence over, but you can't fully change the things outside. Sometimes we do need to sleep with our windows open if it's too hot, or sometimes we do need a fan, or sometimes we need to crank up the heating when it is feeling a little bit too cold overnight.
Definitely, and bearing in mind people's different health conditions and making sure they're put at the forefront too. And so going on to that, our physical health conditions fluctuate all the time. Even if you've got a chronic condition, I'm sure there's days that are good days and bad days. And on top of that, people have different pain and different fatigue, which can have a huge impact on how much they can do in the day and how much tiredness they can kind of build up. If you're feeling quite fatigued, it can be quite tricky to maybe, do the housework you'd normally do, or, go for a walk or anything like that, which can make it quite hard if your body's not physically tired enough to sleep. It can make it really hard to get off to sleep. And then alongside that comes a medication, and can cause lots of unwanted effects. So I think many people we work with have a whole host of different things they take, which are really important and really needed, but they can also reduce the quality of our sleep. So sometimes they talk about, people don't mention it to their doctors, and we'd really encourage you to do that if it is impacting your sleep. You've noticed a new medication you're taking is making you really tired during the day, or you're getting lots of night sweats or something like that, and it's making you really uncomfortable. I don't know if you've got anything else to add.
One thing that I often get asked by people is, does our sleep change as we age or as we get older? And I think that's a really useful question in terms of the differences within our sleep, how much sleep we need over time. And the short answer is definitely yes, that our sleep does change with age, that at different points of our lives we need more sleep than at other times. The way that our bodies and brains work, we might be in need of a little bit more sleep. So the reasons why young people or your teenage children might be sleeping a little bit more is because at that point they really genuinely do need that bit more sleep to be able to support their immune systems, to be able to support their brain functioning. And we notice similarly that people as they get older tend to naturally wake up a little bit earlier, or people might need to use the toilet a little bit more during the night, which might mean that their sleep is okay, but they might need to wake up, go to the toilet, get back into bed, and it takes a little bit of time to go back to sleep. And possibly as a result of that, people might genuinely need to nap a little bit more in the day if they are able to. So just wanted to also mention that age is a big factor, but also regardless of age, people might be impacted by all these different things that we've mentioned today.
And they're just the building blocks, right? So I feel like everyone's individual, and we can definitely, when we work with people, we kind of tailor what we talk about depending on who we're talking to, because we're all individuals and we're all unique in what we experience and what we find a difficulty and what we don't.
So maybe it might be helpful to make a list of some of the things that impact your sleep so that this list becomes something relevant to you.
So this might be quite a good question to think about. Some of the things you're already doing to give yourself the best chance of a really good night's sleep. There's lots of things we know we get told from our parents or our family members or friends, some different ideas. So it'd be really good for you to have a think about what you're already doing, because we can have all these ideas and suggest them, and you might be like, oh, actually, I already do that. Tick that one off the list. So that would be great. So Kaylee, why don't you lead us through these ones?
So we thought about making some research. So we thought about ways in which you might be able to improve your sleep. So one of the first things we thought about was establishing a routine. by creating some kind of sleep pattern of when you're going to bed and waking up. And lots of research has shown that if you're able to keep those times similar throughout the week, then that might help your sleep. Another thing that you might be able to do is to monitor your sleep. So if you're finding that it's difficult for you to sleep, you might want to make a note of any habits or any, for example, things like medication that might be impacting your sleep. The other thing that you might want to do is think about ways that you can adjust your environment. So it might be that you want to make your room warmer if it's too cold. It might be that you want to open the window to make it cooler. You might want to think about ways in which you can reduce the noise levels at night as well.
I think quite a lot of people have told me that blackout blinds have made a huge difference to them. And it's one of those things they hadn't really thought about, especially at this time of year when it's really bright all night. That can be a really helpful thing.
And in the morning, at the moment, definitely in the summer, it gets light at around 4:30, 5 o'clock. So definitely, I swear by my blackout blind. I love it. I think it's a great addition to any household. And there can be, they're not too expensive either. There's some really good ones that are on the market for that are really good value.
Great. So the next thing we thought about is relaxation. So thinking about what kind of things you can do to relax and calm yourself before you try to sleep. You could try something like meditation. There's lots of apps available like Calm, Headspace, that go through some really good breathing exercises that you might find helpful. And then the last thing we thought might be helpful was putting the day to rest. So that's perhaps spending the time in the early kind of evening, reflecting on how your day went, and thinking about what you might want to do tomorrow might be a good way to improve your sleep. And I guess, like everything else, this might vary from person to person, and some things might work for others and some things might not. So that's very important to me.
I think so too. And that day to rest really ties in with worrying, I think, because I think that's when, I think Roselle mentioned earlier, sometimes you can get into bed and your mind fills with all these worries. If you've already had a bit of time to think, oh gosh, that I really wish I'd done that earlier, or should I have said that to that person, and having a bit of time just to think about it and have some space and then putting it to rest. A lot of people find that quite helpful. And along with the routine as well, kind of having a regular kind of giving your body some signals that it's time to go to sleep. That can be helpful. But yeah, like Sickle says, not everything in this list is going to work for everyone. It's just some ideas to kind of hold lightly and try out and have some fun with, rather than rigidly sticking to. Because sometimes they're not going to work, and that's fine. But it's worth giving them a go, I always think. Because if these things are all in place and you're still having difficulty sleeping, then you can kind of start ruling out other things.
And as I'm listening to you both talking, I'm wondering if we should be doing these things generally, whether we have problems with our sleep or not. In listening to what you said, I'm wondering if partners, if children, if friends, relatives might also all benefit from making sure that the environment is as nice as it can be before going to bed. Perhaps thinking about reflecting on your day might mean that you've got more of a chance to be able to reach out and phone a friend or get in contact with someone that you, or a family member, to be able to share some of those things that might be on your mind. And that's not something you can necessarily do in the middle of the night if it comes up then. So I wonder if some of these things could be useful for us all anyway, regardless of whether we have some sleep difficulties.
I definitely think I've noticed that if I get out of a routine or something, then my sleep can be really off. So yeah, I think you're really right, Roselle.
So we've got, as part of one of the exercises, a clip to show you. It's called Leaves on a Stream, and it's a mindfulness meditation exercise. So I'm just going to try and load it up on our screen now. Let me try that again, where I can do it with the with the audio.
We found that some people love these and some people hate them, and there's loads of different ways of doing mindfulness. So it's worth trying out a few different ones, isn't it?
Okay, we'll do a quick check on the audio before we play. So if you can't hear it, then let me know.
Exercise 3, Leaves on a
me.
Stream. The idea behind this exercise is to simply notice your thoughts coming and going without getting caught with them, without getting into a conversation with them, not trying to control them, not getting tangled up with them, just noticing them and then letting them go. When you are ready, begin. Sit comfortably in your chair with your feet on the ground if you can, and your back straight, but not too straight, sitting against the chair. If you wish, close your eyes or have a heavy-lidded gaze, maybe looking at one spot on the ground. Now imagine you are sitting on the bank of a stream and that there are leaves flowing past. The stream and the leaves can look any way you like to imagine. Notice a thought that comes into your mind and imagine placing it on a leaf and letting it flow on. Notice each thought. Imagine placing it on a leaf and let it float on. If your mind begins to wander, just notice that. Return your focus to noticing the thoughts that come to mind and imagine putting them on a leaf and let them float on. If your thoughts stop, just imagine watching the stream until the next one comes along. It doesn't matter if they are good or bad thoughts. Just notice them and imagine placing them on a leaf and let them float away. If they hang around, just notice that. Don't force the speed that they float away on. Sometimes the leaves that pass are ones that might grab our attention for some reason. Sitting on the bankside, we could notice that attention-grabbing leaf. Let it go and watch and wait for the next leaf that comes along. The aim of the skill is to simply notice that our thoughts are like leaves on a stream, always moving on. Sometimes we think a little or we think a lot. Sometimes we get stuck on thoughts that grab our attention. But all our thoughts come and go, even worry thoughts or sad thoughts. Spending a few more moments just watching your thoughts and placing them on a leaf and letting them go. And when you're ready, begin to open your eyes and bring yourself back into the room. What was it like to watch your thoughts go by? What did you notice?
So I think people find that sometimes a bit of an unusual experience if they've not done something like that
The
before.
fear of what could happen
Oh,
is making
sorry.
nothing happen in your life.
Let's stop that one.
And so it's worth trying out different ones, I think. So see if you like that one or you don't. There's lots of different ones that can be different lengths. And so if you find that felt a bit abrupt and short, you could try finding one that's a bit longer. Or we've got another exercise I think that's going to come up on the screen. Rizal, do you want to talk us through this one?
So this is a simple breathing exercise. Breathing can be really powerful if we bring our attention to it for just a moment. So the idea of this one is to step out of the autopilot of your day, of your thoughts for just a moment, and to really bring your focus and your attention and your awareness to your breath. So just like the signs of a triangle, the sides of a triangle, you will breathe in for 3 seconds, hold for 3 seconds, and then breathe out for 3 seconds. Should we try it together?
Yeah.
So if we start by breathing in for 3, 1, 2, 3, that's the hold, and breathe out for 3, 1, 2, 3. See how difficult that was? Should we try that again? So let's breathe in for 3, 1, 2, 3. Hold for 3, 1, 2, 3, and then breathe out for 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's have a moment of trying it without my counting, just to see the natural rhythm of your breath. Noticing yourself really focusing on that breathing. Bringing your full attention to that breathing. So the breathing triangle exercise is one that you could try at different points throughout the day when you're noticing that your thoughts are a bit too much, or you're feeling quite tired from not having a good night's sleep the day before. If you're sitting in the waiting room of a hospital, or waiting to go into an appointment, or waiting for an important phone call, for perhaps being able to allow yourself just a moment to stop and pause. The triangle breathing exercise can be a really useful one to give yourself a bit of space, a bit of moment for yourself, and bringing yourself back into your body.
And the great thing is you don't need anything with you, do you? You don't need YouTube or anything, because the signal at Guy's Hospital is not always great.
How did you find the breathing?
I always find it helpful. I think it's something that is, some people hate it because they have breathing problems with their chest and things, so we understand that. But for me, I think all the research about how it can slow your heart rate down and how much your impact it can have on making you feel physically calmer, and how that can impact your mental state. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah, I found it really relaxing actually, especially the leaves on the stream one. And I'm wondering if it's something that perhaps people could incorporate into putting the day to rest. It might be a nice thing to do.
When we're feeling really tired, it can be quite hard sometimes, as we know already from the previous slides, to be able to concentrate, to be able to remember what we want to ask in hospital appointments, or when we're sharing information and news with family members or friends. So sometimes giving yourself just a few seconds before having those initial conversations can help bring you back to yourself, bring you back into your body, and to ground you for the day.
So there's a whole host of different resources we could have shown you, but this is just a selection of them. We've had a few people find these ones helpful. So Sleepio is an app, and so is Headspace and Calm. And then there's 2 books that have slightly different views on how they think you should approach sleep difficulties, but both of them different people find helpful. So they're often in the library or online, not too expensive to get hold of.
So this is just a brief summary of what we've spoken about today. And it's important to note that a lot of what we discussed were just the basic building blocks of how to sleep well. But if you notice that you're still having difficulty sleeping, definitely contact us if you think that would be helpful, or visit your GP. It's also important to remember as well that lots of people have had difficulty sleeping throughout this uncertain time, and it's probably caused by things like worrying or anxiety, and it's normal that you're experiencing that.
And that's fine. And I think that's a really good summary of we want to give you some tips and hints, but there's more to it. And if it'd be helpful to unpack it a bit more, we're really happy to do that. We know that sometimes people have had traumatic events or something, that really impact their sleep and doesn't make it feel safe to sleep. And other people, it's just the situation it is at the moment, and when that goes back to normal, they might find their sleep just pings back into place. But we're here to support you if you'd like to talk to us.
So thank you so much for watching the Haematology Health Psychology series that has been today about sleep. We are very keen to hear your feedback. So we've got an anonymous and confidential survey that we would very much appreciate you filling out after you've watched today. It will help us to improve on this talk and also give us some ideas for other things that you might be interested in the future. We've mentioned today a little bit about mindfulness, a little bit about fatigue, and also as well about some of the difficulties and worries that you might be experiencing. So if there are any things related to that or other things, we'd be really keen to hear your views.
Definitely. So there's different ways you can get in contact with our team. You can contact us directly on our email, which is up there, or our telephone number that comes straight to our office. And if we don't pick up, please leave a voicemail and we'll get back to you. Otherwise, you can be referred, if you're a Guy's patient, through any of your medical teams. So feel free to ask for us and we will happily speak to you.
Thanks so much for watching.
Thanks.
We hope to see you again.
Bye.